Now we're asking what next for Tottenham Hotspur today as the club begins a new era. Executive Chairman Daniel Levy stepped down yesterday after 24 years in that role. And as you can see, our chief correspondent, Kaveh Solhekol, is with me. Kaveh, I think the big question is, was he pushed? Did he jump? Or was it somewhere in between?
Well, the official statement from Spurs last night said that Daniel Levy had decided to step down. I think it would be perhaps more accurate to say that he was asked to step down. Now, it's understandable why they didn't want to make that explicit in the official statement, because Daniel Levy has dedicated, the last 25 years of his working life to building Tottenham into the club that they are. So I don't think this is a case of him being pushed or him being fired or him being sacked. I think it is a little bit more nuanced than that. I think the truth is that the effective owners of the club, Joe Lewis and his family, brought in some management consultants earlier this year who had a look at the way the club was being run. And I think they thought that some changes needed to be made. And Daniel Levy is sort of unique in how powerful he is at Tottenham, because he's a significant shareholder. He's also the chairman, but he's an executive chairman, which means effectively he was the chief executive as well. And what they've done is that the executive director, Donna Maria Cullen, who is very, very close to Mr. Levy, has left. They've brought in Vinay Venkatesham, who used to be the managing director and chief executive of Arsenal as well. And they've just decided that they need to go in a slightly different direction. I think they're grateful to Daniel Levy, especially for what he's done into turning Tottenham into one of the most successful commercially clubs in the world and one of the best run clubs in the world. But I think they just want a little bit more of a focus on being successful on the pitch as well. And Vinay Venkatesham has now got a big job on his hands because Daniel Levy will be a tough act to follow.
You will indeed. Thank you very much, Kaveh. Well, we're going to speak now to a man who knows Levy very well. Goalkeeper Brad Friedel was brought to Spurs by Levy, and Brad joins us now. Brad, appreciate your time. Levy did the deal to bring you to the club. What do you remember about that time?
It was an exciting time at Tottenham. Some really good players. I always found Daniel to be a true gentleman, probably the most punctual chairman that's out there. Any text, any email, any correspondent meeting, he was always eager and willing to speak to people. He is a tough negotiator, but he's a very fair negotiator. And once deals are done, he doesn't go back on the deals, or not in my experiences. I think he's done a wonderful job. I was signed there when it was still the old training ground. We transitioned into the new one, the old stadium, and then now the new stadium. Everyone's seen it. I don't think while he was in charge, if you would ever see any financial issues or struggles with Tottenham. I know some of the fans may have had some rumblings because of the lack of trophies, and perhaps they think that they should have spent more money. But is that a true reflection on Daniel Levy, or is it a reflection on the entire ownership group? I think some of that may come out, and it's nothing that I know for certain, but between the board at Blackburn Rovers, which was a small family club back in the early 2000s that I was at, and then Daniel Levy, they were the two best boards collectively that I had ever been a part of as a player. And as a player, you knew exactly where Daniel Levy always stood.
Could you give us a little bit more insight into the players' perception of Daniel Levy?
Well, it's interesting that he every player knew that they didn't have the power to get moves, for instance. So like this Isak deal that we saw transpire over this transfer window, he would have stayed a Tottenham player. He wouldn't have lost a negotiation like that. I was there when the two transfers of Luka Modric and Gareth Bale, who were both two of the world's greatest players. Daniel got maximum value, and if you notice, he never sold inside England, so we're not playing against them unless it was in the Champions League. All the players knew that Daniel dictated the terms of moves and dictated the terms of contracts, and it helped, to be honest with you, because there was very, very rarely rumblings inside the changing room Maybe some jokes here and there about how difficult it was to negotiate, but very rarely, true rumblings. I remember when Luka, and I believe it was Chelsea that was interested in him, he didn't get his move. He wasn't happy, but Daniel doesn't lie to players. He was honest with them. He did what was best for Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, and Luka stayed another season, maybe two. I can't remember exactly, but stayed. And you'll see, and Luka played, and he was a brilliant player for us. And then he got his move to Real Madrid, and the rest was history. But as a player, you may not have been every player may not have been incredibly happy with the negotiation and how it was, but he was very fair and honest, and always was trying to do what was fiscally correct for Tottenham. Now, he may have also been directed by people on the board where he had to be more fiscally demanding than some other chairmans in the game. That I don't know. But what I always found, because I negotiated a couple of deals just myself personally with him for myself. Once it was agreed, it was a handshake, and nothing ever changed. So I found him very easy to speak to. Found him very easy to get along with. I always felt that he had Tottenham in his heart, and he was just trying to do the best in a business sense for Tottenham. So I have nothing but good things to say about Daniel as a chairman.
We'd like to hear more about the story where you were once fined for swapping too many jerseys by Daniel.
Well,
Please tell us about
yeah.
that.
Well, it wasn't a fine. I wasn't fined. So we'll get the story. So at clubs, I had never, I was older, obviously, when I was there. I think I signed at Tottenham when I was 40. And sort of every game that I played or was involved in, like most people thought that would be my last. And I ended up staying there 4 more years. But I remember I got my wage slip once, and I just happened to look at it, and I didn't really know. I didn't normally look at my wage slips, and there was a minus, and it was a few £100s on it, and I didn't know what it was for. So I asked what it was for, and they said, "Well, at Tottenham you only get four. I think it was four free shirts like that are yours." And then when you trade them and you swap them after the four, or maybe been eight or four, then the club charges you for it. And I mean, like at Aston Villa, Liverpool, Blackburn. I mean, I used to have like 35 or 50, however many games you had, and I never got charged for it. And that was the first time that I was ever charged for a shirt in my career.
Okay, back to the fans now, though. Thank you for sharing that story and clarifying with us. Do the fans need to be careful what they wish for?
Oh, you always do when, like if it was the fans' voice that pushed him out, of course. I mean, I think the fans have to understand where exactly Tottenham was when Daniel took over. You see, I'll just use or three clubs actually. Look what happened to a big club like a Sheffield Wednesday, a Leeds, and a Portsmouth. Tottenham was sort of in that category of could that possibly happen financially if you weren't protective of the finances at the club. And Daniel made sure that that didn't happen. And you also have to say that he had Donna Cullen by his side, Matthew Collicott by his side, and they worked as a really good group together to make sure that that didn't happen. We had when I signed all 4 years, we had some incredible talent in the changing room. Was it talent to win the league? Maybe the first year that I was there when we had Adebayor, when we had Scotty Parker and Luka and Gareth. Maybe the addition of one or two could have put us up into the top two. But some really really good players, and so if you take the finances of the club and add to the talent that he's had and the managers that he's had, he's done a really good job. So I think the trickiest part that I saw, and I didn't witness this firsthand, but I heard from managers, of course, was the relationship that he had with managers. And I don't think they were bad relationships. I just think he was a lot. He was different than other chairmen. I believe the two probably more disgruntled ones were maybe the Mourinho and Conte. But other than that, I think everybody respected how Daniel operated. It may have become exhaustive, but they respected him.
Now, Brady was at Spurs for 25 years, instrumental in creating the new stadium. So what will be his legacy? Bricks and mortar or the lack of silverware?
I mean, two trophies. And it's not enough, but it's really harsh to think that Daniel Levy can only be remembered by the lack of silverware. I've seen a lot of football crumbles, not just football clubs crumble, not just in the UK, but around Europe because they're not looked after. The club, whoever takes over the running of the club, and I'll get onto another point in a minute. They have a foundation of an incredible team. Maybe they'll spend a bit more money, but you might have to be careful spending the more money because you might have another bad season and another bad season. You just don't know what will happen in football. So I think you always have to look at it with that lens. Now, maybe also this opens the door for a sale. Now, Daniel's a shareholder, to my knowledge, he still is, and but without him running the club, maybe that was a step in the direction they're going. I don't know that. That's just something I'm throwing out in the air, but perhaps that's something that perhaps they're angling at, and it might be easier to do when he's not the chairman.
Thanks very much for chatting to us, Brad.
Okay, my pleasure.